Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Welcome to another week of CLCI Live. And before we begin, I'm going to say that we've not been getting a ton of participation in our chat lately. So I'm going to beg and plead, if you're watching, please join in the conversation. Pop your thoughts into the comments and we will address them or feature them at a minimum. We want to hear from you. So please join in. And that'll be all for now.
That's it. All right, goodbye.
What's our topic today? It is what?
Skepticism. Can you ask too many questions, and how much coach should question their client?
Really, that's presumptuous of you. I think it just said, should we question everything?
Well, I'm trying to keep it in line with coaching, but sure. How much should you question everything in reality and truth?
Well, yeah, but I just mean that immediately you said too many questions, and my skin crawled because I don't like the word too. T-O-O.
T-O-O. You like the word as well?
Yeah, I don't mind because it's the other meaning of two that I don't like. The inference that two has is a quantifiable number, like such a thing as too much or too little,
Gotcha.
or too old or too smart or too dumb. There's not a quantifiable term, and it bothers me because it's very, very subjective word that can't be defined in any way. So
no, I can say that 5 questions is okay. 6 questions is too many. That's how I define it. 6 questions per coaching session.
But I think even what you said as well, Brooke, leads into the skepticism of what we're talking about that Anthony is sharing.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
so
no.
Everyone, then, what the hell is skepticism? What do you think being a skeptic is?
There's two different. I think that we have to divide this into 2 different categories. There is the what I'll call the textbook definition of skepticism, or the philosophical definition of skepticism, and then there is the functional or layman's or just like everyday. It's like book smart versus street smart. The street smart skepticism versus the book smart skepticism.
My gosh, this just got complicated.
Like if I was going to say, okay, I'm skeptical about that, or he's very skeptical. I'm talking about the use of the word, like, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I'm going to question it, what have you. But the textbook definition is like when we get into the very philosophical definitions of what skeptic is, and it can be very specific things, and that's a much deeper term. I think it's important to sort of realize there's 2 levels of skepticism when we say skeptical. Does that make sense, Anthony?
Layman version of skeptical, what do you think being skeptical is? Like, you're like, that person's a skeptical person. What do you mean by that?
A naysayer.
Yeah, I would say a doubter, or
I'd say
somebody who needs proof.
Jerome, Jen.
When I hear skeptic, I think cautious as opposed to naysayer, doubter. I wouldn't go all the way into that realm. I think there's other words that can describe someone that aren't coming to me at the moment. As someone who's, I think naysayer or doubter, those are great words to define someone who lives that way. I think skeptic is somebody, I would consider myself sometimes skeptical. I just a little bit cautious before moving on to do something outright.
I think a word that comes forward for me in this is proof. Like, I feel like a skeptical person, they're going to need some proof.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the philosophical skeptic that's going to argue about what proof really is. So,
and see, to me, a skeptic is a questioner, right? So that proof could come from external or internal, right? But usually if you tell me something, I'm going to have questions about it before I really believe it.
So, like, I mean, if we said coaching is amazing, it always works, it's fantastic.
Right.
Let's just do one of those things, Brooke. Choose one of those things that coaching is, and we'll work on that.
How about coaching is amazing? Let's start with that. How about that?
Okay. What does it mean to be amazing? Let's just start there.
Oh, here we go.
Are you being a skeptic right now? That's my question.
Yes, I'm questioning that statement. I'm not taking it for face value. I'm asking first, so we're at least starting somewhere. What is amazing, or what is it to be amazed? How am I going to know that I'm going to be amazed by coaching?
For me, I define amazing as impressive. As
Okay.
I don't think we have to go as far as awe-inspiring. I don't think we have to be awestruck in this case of amazing, but I think that we have to be impressed with results.
Okay, that's good enough for me. So, coaching is amazing because I'll be impressed by the results. Is that always the case?
Not always, no. I would guess.
So, okay. So I'm already like, I can just be done with the conversation right now. It's like, okay, there's some cases where coaching is not amazing.
So you've broken my argument because it is no longer the case that every time coaching is amazing. So it's a false. That statement is false. Bears eat beets. Battlestar Galactica.
So that's like, but if we're just staying on like, normal human level of conversation, you wouldn't be wrong to say really that coaching is amazing. Like, I wouldn't say to you, Brooke, no, coaching's not amazing, because there's some times when coaching's not amazing. So you're wrong to say that. Like, that's not.
Coaching is not amazing. You're wrong. Like, that would be a bad move.
Yeah. For most things, like when people say those kinds of things, we take them at face value and be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, and just tell me how it's amazing. And then you'll just go from there. We don't really apply skepticism unless you're like an asshole, like I'm being right now.
But there are times I would argue that I'm going to make two arguments here. That both, there are times when skepticism probably should come into play and it doesn't. Like, there's a lot of people out there who take some things for granted, or take people at face value, or and they probably should ask a few more questions before. And in coaching though, there are probably times that being a skeptic could be very beneficial.
Definitely provide a clarity that one didn't have before. And I can throw in an example, even because I've had a few clients that they came in and were totally skeptical. I can't even say the word. Okay, say it for me. Skeptical. There it is.
Skeptical.
About what the process of coaching was like, and why did I think I could do it? What was I going to do different than anybody else could do? And so part of that argument became putting my money where my mouth is, or their money where their mouth was, is that, okay, if you don't like this, by the time we're done, you don't have to pay me. And so we went into the coaching process for this couple. And by the time they were done, they were buying the next session and the next session, because the proof. So that's where, Anthony, you're kind of going with the proof.
They found out by experience. Let's say if we're saying coaching is amazing, they found out that coaching was amazing through experience, not because we're defining coaching as amazing, right?
Yes, because they did. I don't mean maybe Lisa presented it as amazing to begin with, but they discovered it was amazing on their own, came to their own.
True, but like if they said that by the end of the session, oh, coaching is amazing. We worked with Lisa and I was skeptical before, but now I know that coaching is amazing. No one's ever going to doubt that. Like, no one's ever going to question. Well, you could, but most normal people aren't going to be like,
well, I don't always believe like everybody's reviews. Like, I'll ask more questions. If somebody is going to find something is amazing to me, I'm going to be like, okay, really, why? Explain. Tell me more about that. Like, what?
I'm not talking about them trying to convince me. I'm talking about their own personal experience. As if they say it's amazing and they experienced it, that's probably good enough. We don't have to question it further.
Another place though that skepticism might be really good is when our clients walk in and they go, no, it's always this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's always this way. And that's when we can put on our skepticals, right? And be like, always? Can you think of a time when it hasn't been that way? And that's us being skeptical, right? Isn't that a use of skepticism, Anthony? Or,
It is.
yeah.
And that's the problem of induction in those videos that we were watching, where just because your experience has always been the case, or maybe not, doesn't mean it will always be that way in the future. So when we ask that kind of question, has it always been the case? We're doing our job as a coach and as a skeptical coach of trying to figure out if they're just lying to us or not, or if they're telling us a falsehood. What I want to ask, though, is what if it is always the case? What if things have always gone bad for them? Does that mean things will always be bad for them in the future?
Yes.
No, I disagree.
Darn it, I got the question wrong.
Oh, wait, Anthony's the one that's being optimistic right now? Hold on a second.
But wait, what? He's being optimistic.
I'm not being optimistic.
He's being a realist.
I'm essentially calling the client, in this case, a liar and an idiot, but I'm doing it in a nice way.
God.
So, yeah, that's my question. Just because something has always been true in the past, does that mean it will always be true in the future? And can you actually know that's the case?
No.
Of course not.
No one can tell the future.
So how would you go about telling that to a client then?
You wouldn't.
Or getting the client to see that is the case?
So I checked out. I checked out for a minute. Let me hear what your question is so that I can maybe play.
Yeah, so we established that just because something was always true in the past doesn't mean that it's always going to be true in the future. There's no way you can know the future or infer from past experiences that something will always be true. How do we get our clients to know that? Or is it even our job to tell them that's the case or get them there? So if a client's telling themselves like a negative story, like it's always been the case, whenever I tried to do X, I've always failed. Always failed no matter what. And it's true. They can't think of a time when that's not been true. And that's the story that's in front of them. What is the coach supposed to do after they tell them that?
I'm going to ask them what's important about that story to today's session.
Then the client would say, it means I'm always going to fail in the future. Every time I try, I'm always going to fail.
Wait, is there a real life example? Is there any of us here who feels like something always happens, or they're just not good at something, or they can't do something, or
video games. I suck at video games.
Okay. And have you always sucked at video games?
I have always sucked at video games.
And do you want to be better at video games, or do you want to not? So then, let me rewind the tape. What does it mean? What does it mean to suck at a video game, Lisa?
Listen to that, Lisa. Sheesh. How dare you suck at video games? No. So, what does it mean? It means, on one aspect, when somebody asks me to play, I go, I'm not very good at it. I don't really want to play, so I can be non-committal.
Okay. What do you mean by not very good at them?
So now we're getting a little deeper. I like to think that I'm not too competitive in nature, but on those kinds of things, it shows me that I am quite competitive in nature, so that when I play something I'm not good at and I don't practice at, I don't want to do it.
Okay.
So hold on. I just heard you say something. You just said, when I do something I'm not good at and don't practice at. Can you tell me about the relationship between being good at and practicing?
Well, I know in order to get better at something, one has to practice it quite a bit. So, even if I go into the philosophy side of what our neurons do, that neuron knitting, as I have called it, happens. And so you become better because of the repetition. And I don't give games that validity. Did that answer your question? I'm not sure I answered it.
No, I think it did answer it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question more so. Let's not specifically about video games, but games in general. Like, do you like board games?
I like to play games and board games, but I usually use my own rules.
So I want to ask you this. When we started this, you said you suck at video games.
Yeah.
I think Anthony was about to ask a question and he backed off on it, but I think it's an important question to ask. What is important to you about playing video games?
Cambria got some video games that she keeps inviting me to play, and I'm going, and I feel guilty.
Okay. So what would motivate you to play the video games?
I don't know. Part of me, besides Cambria wanting to play with them, I don't know what about them that I feel like I don't like. I'm not sure. I don't have an answer. I'm not sure.
Yes, Jen.
Okay, I have a question. And Lisa, I'm not 100% sure you said this, so I'm going to reflect what I heard, and then we'll go from there. So I thought I heard you say, I don't consider myself to be very competitive. And yet when I play the video games, I see myself becoming competitive. What about being competitive?
I think it takes away from the fun of the game, and that's where putting my own rules to board games and things, it can be fun.
Here's a question. Are there non-competitive video games?
Well, I know there's like my older daughter loves Sims, and I don't know that is a competitive game. I can tell you one of the video games I do like are the ones that, what do they call them? They're not, eat 'em up kinds of things, but have you go through rooms and investigate, and what do you call those?
Like puzzles kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of puzzle kind of things. Those I like.
Lisa would love Arkham Horror.
Yeah, Lisa would love it. Like Lisa, it's totally our solution, because I can get frustrated with every so often I'll get frustrated with competitive games, especially if I'm on a losing streak. So I'll be like, no more. We're playing cooperative games, or cooperative only, because otherwise I'm going to punch you. Like that's what happens.
But Lisa, what you've been describing though hasn't necessarily been an issue with the video game in and of itself. It's the type of game that what you've been describing is the type of game that you play.
Yeah.
You said yourself, you're not really seeing yourself as a competitive gamer. That's not what you gravitate towards. And if you even disclosed in board games, you'll change the rules so that it sort of fits what you're more comfortable with playing. And you start to describe, other types of game that are more appealing to you, such as like investigatory games. I don't know how to turn that into an adjective without sounding dumb, but investigating games, or games that don't have a competitive nature. So now that we've established that as sort of a
baseline,
would you be interested in playing video games if they were more of the type of games that you wanted to play?
Yeah, I mean, when I have played those games, it hasn't been an abundant, but basically I've spent more time there. And that's the other thing. I also think they're time suckers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other
time suckers. So, I mean, I've got my own idea of what that means, but can you explain to me what a time sucker is?
You just kind of get sucked down the just staring at a computer essentially, and not really communicating with others, not doing work. I mean, just the time it
But-
takes to participate. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I totally interrupted, but I was just totally not cool. That I didn't take my second dose of Adderall today. Apologize. With regard to when you were sharing that just a minute ago, though, and
Yeah.
just now you said that you don't like it's a time sucker. You end up being stuck in front of a computer. You're not communicating. You're not socializing, things like that. But you just shared that one of the reasons you feel guilty around not playing is that your granddaughter asks you to play.
She likes to play those other games, though.
Mm.
She wants to be competitive.
Well, I don't know if she wants to be competitive. She just wants us to join her and watch her. 6-year-old, right? They like to be joined and watched as they move through the program. She
So in
doesn't
that
care-
case,
And
are
she
you
doesn't care if I win or lose.
But do you?
Yes. Because there's degrees of winning and losing, right? There's degrees of losing those silly games that I haven't overcome.
I'm kind of curious what games are being played.
She right now she's got an actual thing, like old school.
Oh,
where
like a retro game.
Yeah, she's got some. Oh,
Is it like an Atari?
Does it have like Pac-Man and stuff on? I love those.
yeah.
games.
There's
Yeah.
one. There's that one which she hasn't quite grasped yet, but she likes to play them. And then she's got another one where she's got jumping, and so it reminds me of Mario Brothers. It's not, and I can't think of the cartoon that it is. You guys would know it because that would be up your alley watching it.
I'm a real gamer. I know all the video games.
I'm a real gamer. Thank you.
But I guess to sort of illustrate how this relates to coaching, we started with a premise, or we started with a statement. Lisa sucks at video games and she's not good at them. And the skeptical coach would not just take that at face value, you break it down. You try to figure out the bits and pieces of why Lisa believes what she believes, and then evaluate each of those things. And those lead to a lot of different paths you can choose to coach in.
We learned a lot.
Instead.
I mean, we learned a lot through that, right? Where if we weren't skeptical to begin with, right, we would just go, "Oh, okay, you do. You suck at video games. Cool."
Yeah.
So to really get into more coaching the whole person versus just the topical side of, me saying what I've said, is how do I feel in those places? Is there anything I want to do different in those places? And how will I feel if I achieve that difference? What is imagining that difference? What do you notice about yourself? So bringing it back to that person then really creates that deeper dive in that process.
I like video games, and
Everybody in the house does too.
I sometimes
Yeah,
suck
I
at
like it.
I sometimes don't.
So that's one way on how skepticism is good in coaching. I'm trying to think of ways skepticism would be bad in coaching.
Very bad. There's lots of
Really,
ways it's very bad. I mean,
I think if you let it drive your conversation or your coaching session where you immediately cut out some possibilities for your client without even exploring them, I think that's where it can be bad in a coaching
like
session.
if Lisa said, "I suck at video games," and we went, "Do you really suck at video games?" And she would bring it up, and then with every question, like rather than when she said, "Well, I feel guilty when I want to play," is that really guilt that you feel? Like we have to start accepting that her answer is to be true, right, or okay, and not like keep going and keep going, keep going.
Well, I don't think that's really true. That would be another thing.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
There's some newer coaches that really feel like they have the answers, so that their skepticism in what their client's saying drives them to not be coaching.
Mhm.
It's not even really a skepticism, more of it's like, well, I believe a different thing, and my
Yeah,
different
right.
thing's true. It's not skeptical of the claim and then trying to like break it down. It's just saying you're wrong. Here's a better thing
Yeah.
to believe.
What's the difference between skepticism and curiosity?
So for me, my go-to question, like if you were to say, I suck at this, I would say, what makes you say that? Like I'm curious. I'm not necessarily skeptical because that might be true. But I'm curious to know the reason behind it, why you think that. And sometimes when you ask that, what makes you say that, someone will start explaining it and then they'll go, wait, no, that's not true. They'll like catch themselves lying to themselves. And then that opens the door for like, okay, wait, if that's not entirely true, why am I saying that? How does me saying that continue to serve me? It doesn't. And then they basically coach themselves.
I think it's a really, really good point, by the way. And it just sort of like blew my mind a little bit because what she said was her question. What was your question exactly?
Me?
Yeah. Your question, Elisa, would be,
what makes you say that?
What makes you say that? Okay. So what's interesting is we as skeptics all just assumed that there's probably an instance where Lisa doesn't suck. But what Jen didn't do was assume that there isn't an instance where Lisa doesn't suck. Jen was like, well, it could be true. Let's figure out more. This might be the case. And maybe it's okay that it's the case. We don't know if it's okay or if it's not. Maybe she doesn't have to not suck. Maybe it's okay. Maybe at the end of this, it's okay that she sucks and she doesn't want to change that. Like, you know what I mean? So it just
could very well be true.
But I think that I think maybe though where we went a little, if we had a session contract, if we knew that Lisa's end goal was to not suck or her end goal was to play video games with her granddaughter, then we know sort of better when to be skeptical and when not to be, I guess I would say. So
and that may or may not be true as well, because the client, i.e. me in this moment, I may not know if I want to do that or not. I may not know what I really want my end game to be. So this becomes more of an experiment and exploration as part of really that end goal.
So Lisa, what you brought up about sucking at video games?
Well, you guys asked.
Is there anything that you would want to work on or change, or
osmosis? I would like it to be achievable by osmosis, and I know it's not. I know I have to put in effort and practice, experiment with the process of learning how to navigate all of those buttons and things that you do with those whatever you call the joystick, but it's not joystick anymore. What are they called?
Controllers.
That's it.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they are. So we even got, because I thought, so I can give you more details. We even got one of those head things that you wear now for virtual.
VR.
Yeah.
And I want to play with VR.
Motion sick in them. So I'm like, is it just going to be my nature to never play video games? Do I want to play? I would like to have learned at an earlier age, like my brother.
Okay. So do you want to be better at video games?
Without putting in the effort. Because that takes time, right? It takes energy. It takes time away from something. I think I don't put, for me, not that it's anybody else, but for me, it's not on my top 10 list thing to do.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about how okay are you with just sucking at video games forever, right? Like this is I'm not gonna play them. I'm not gonna play them. I'm not gonna do it. I'm okay with it. 10 being I'm not gonna do them. I'm okay with it, and 1 being well I would like to figure out how to play them. Actually, it's gonna bother me if I don't.
So 1 is bother me, 10 is I'm okay with it. I would say, and I think in situations it changes, but on an overall average, I would say a 6.
A 6, okay, that's kind of right in the middle.
Because it's times that the family wants to play together, and I'm like because I'm right-handed, right-footed, 2 left feet. It feels awkward. Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking at that scale of 1 to 10, where would you like to be on that scale?
Again, if I didn't have to take a whole lot of time to train my brain, those neurons, get those connections going. See, part of it feels like it's not fun when I'm doing this. It doesn't feel fun. So I like to have fun when I'm doing this kind of stuff. So to keep it in the fun area. So 1 to 10. I don't even know what I'm answering. Sorry.
So if you're at a 6 now, right? And where one is it bothers me. 10 is I don't care that I'm not playing video games. And you landed at a 6, right? Is when I asked you that. Where would you like to be on that scale?
I think, looking at myself and what I like, I would like to I'd probably be at a 4.
Like be at a 4, okay.
It feels more achievable. It allows me to break it down if I need to break it down and not feel overwhelmed.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you want to move towards the realm of it doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm. Or I don't have my own self evaluating, but keep it in the fun range.
You just keep it in the fun range, sort of. So what can you do to achieve that?
Well, I have been watching Cambria play another game up here, and that's been fine. And I've been helping her navigate the game. So it feels like more of that.
Okay. So more of just helping and assisting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that keep it in the fun space?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything else you can do?
I don't really want to pick up a game and do it myself, so no, that's not going to be it. I mean, I can tell you the no's, but anything no, that just feels appropriate for me and where I am with it. That if something else comes of it, I'm open to adding it, but right now that doesn't feel like the direction.
Okay. Jen?
So it sounds like you have more fun spending time with Cambria and video games when you remove the competitive nature from it, when you just assist her.
Yeah. So I used to go to Vegas periodically. This is tying into that too. And I would stand behind some people, whoever my husband or my friend or whatever, and I would help them play.
She's a backseat gamer.
I was imagining Lisa just standing behind strangers and just like telling them.
I actually have been known to do that too. But we became friendly at the table. And I definitely played, and I'm not terrible at it, and I have a good time with it. And blackjack. I'm not a poker player, but blackjack and whatnot. Mm-hmm.
So if that's how you have fun with the video games, what makes you need to be better at video games?
Well, everybody wants to play and wants, like, oh, come on and play with me. I'm like, I don't want to play. So it becomes a discussion or an argument that, I'm not usually a no, I don't want to. I usually am a volunteerer.
So what would happen if you volunteered and just played and sucked? What would happen?
Well, what I'm feeling right now is like, I'm not doing that.
So you're unwilling to suck?
I'm unwilling to just play and suck. Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because I am willing to be the backseat gamer, as you call me.
Hey, I allow backseat gaming in my stream. That is like a big part of my stream. I like it. I enjoy it. So,
when we were playing with Jerome, I don't know who else was there, and you were doing your trivia, and we were playing during COVID. I had a lot of fun playing with Jerome on that because we were together a team. And to me, that feels worthy.
so
I didn't care. I mean, a little bit, of course, but I didn't care that we got it wrong. I cared that he and I were hanging out together and playing.
To be fair, I'm not very competitive as yourself, so I like to kind of.
Lisa, can I ask? And not talking about video games at all. What do you do when somebody you care about wants to do one thing and you don't want to really do it?
I usually do it.
Okay. Why?
I'm gonna cry now. Don't ask me those damn questions, Anthony. Because I want to be with them. And it doesn't matter unless I have, okay, so there's an unless. It doesn't matter because to me, when I go into reasoning, what's important here? And it always comes back to, I want to be with that person, whatever that is. Unless there's, stuff I got to do, can't do, that kind of thing. But
So from that, and we took a step back now going to video games.
how can you apply that?
Yes. I'm trying to not just
how to apply what?
questions.
What you just said, your statement you just made.
So just play because it's the joy of being with them. And I have. The joy part of being with them is there. The joy of playing the game is
And you're just like, so can I just totally coach hat off in this moment? Just
yeah.
I love games and I love games and I want you to embrace some games.
So I went over to the neighbors.
Can I just coach hat off?
Wait, let me tell you a story. I went over to the neighbors. They have this calico cat. Oh, what is it called? Where are you quilting? Calico cat quilting game. I'm like, what is that? So they're putting patterns and shapes just like you would. And there's so much strategy to that. And as we were strategizing, all I wanted to do was chit chat around it and be with them. And they're trying. Anyway, okay.
It sounds though like what's more important, it's not playing the game, it's the experience of interacting and seeing the game and enjoying the game
and watching them enjoy it.
And that makes you happy.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks you to play a game, can't you now this is me of course feeding you a couch off. I have two solutions. Totally not being a coach right now. But what's stopping you from saying I'd just like to watch and help out?
I don't. That's a good point.
This is also me taking my coach hat off. There's not a
You
whole
guys
lot.
suck at this game.
Yeah,
I turned that around. That became a
Yeah.
coaching moment. Actually, I
did.
corrected myself.
You actually
Yeah.
did. You did.
Yeah. So let's just talk about briefly what you did there is you challenged by being skeptical. I can't even say the word skeptical of what I was saying and able to give an opposite effect, right? Well, you've shared what's attractive and you've shared what's not attractive. What if, because you're gathering all of my details and you're now giving them back to me. So you're right, Brooke, you did get into coach model there because you gave me back what I already told you. Mm-hmm. And what were you going to say, Anthony, as well?
Well, first, we suck at not being coaches. Two, it sounds like what I'm observing is it's not really a question of video games. It's a question of the medium in which a game is, how you play a game and how you interact with other people.
Yeah.
Where there are video games out there that do not require a controller to play and that are cooperative, or they are
creative Minecraft. You'd probably love it.
Well, also there's social games out there. Like, I'm sure, have we all played Jackbox party games?
So much fun. So much fun.
Jerome, you know what I'm talking about. Lisa or Brooke, have you played Jackbox?
I have not, no, but I've heard about it.
I've never heard of it.
That's a type of video game that, you know, you put on your TV or computer and you play it from your phone and you're just typing in answers, funny answers, or just interacting with other people. But there's the type of game out there that sounds like the kind of game that you would be interested in playing.
I can tell you one of my favorite games. You want to know one of my favorite games? Apples to Apples. And the variations of.
And so there are video games out there that are like Apples to Apples. The only difference being, instead of playing it with cards in front of you, you're playing on a screen and you're using technology to facilitate the game.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it's not necessarily you being bad at video games. It's you being bad at video games you don't like to play. Like you're I'm trying to think of no, like I'm trying to think of things.
So
I don't know.
There are games you like to play. Those exists out there. Backseat. If it's a game you don't like to play, I'll just watch. Now this is me not coaching, but and then in the meantime, is it possible for you to say, "Hey, I like these kind of games. Could we find some of them?" I'll play these ones.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is I never instigate games, so that is a definite truth. So could I say, yeah, I definitely could do that. Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear. Oh, okay, sorry. I just
so when you guys do that piece, it's like a teachable moment. That teachable moment. Here's what I'm hearing you say. I'm really hearing you say this. How does that fit for you with what I've just said? So you get the client to say how it works and get a new definition is basically what we do with that.
So how are you feeling about video games right now, Lisa?
Still the same about video games, but the ability to identify what I like and have the option to saying, you know, I'm here to support you kind of thing and watch you play this, or we could do this other game.
So this whole coaching session, to bring it back to skepticism, it all just came from us being skeptical of Lisa's claim and being curious as to what she actually meant and how we can, you know, go about this discussion. Brooke, you asked earlier what the difference between curiosity and skepticism is. They're both, in my mind, pursuits towards the truth. in a way where curiosity, you want to know what is true. Skepticism, you don't want to believe things that are untrue.
Mhm.
And you're working towards both ends to finally get to something that like you can work with. Is kind of what we did with Lisa at this point. We're trying to uncover, or not uncover, but we're trying to work through what we might think is untrue and break that down. And then we're curious by asking questions. And so I think that was a good example of what curiosity and skepticism look when you work in tandem, instead of just always being skeptical and always being curious and willing to believe, anything that the client says.
So curious is being able to ask a question that you don't have any answers for.
Totally have a left field question in my head, like total left field question. Do you have to be humble to be curious?
Well, your ego can't be present. So if in the absence of ego and the option is to be humble, I would say probably.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you don't have to be humble to be curious.
In the absence of ego, what are you then?
I think you have to, maybe I think humble because of his way he defines humble.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's not that, but you have to be willing to admit you don't know.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yeah, not having the answers.
Is the same true for skepticism?
Frame that as a question, like as a more detailed question. I'm a little confused.
So maybe this is probably, and maybe not. It might be a poor reasoning. Sort of. I might be equating. It might be what is it? Correlation does not equal
Causation.
Kind of thing. But with that regard, so when we are curious, we have to first admit that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
When we are skeptical, must we first also admit that we do not know?
It's kind of part of it.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
part of. It's like it's the pursuit of truth. You're trying to pursue truth by using two different ways.
It's kind of like the hypothesis, right?
Yeah, you've got a desire for knowledge. In the curious example, I don't have knowledge and I wish to seek it, and I'm curious. I want to know more. Skepticism is more so, I don't have knowledge and I don't trust, or
So we have a premise. We have a premise, but we don't know whether it's true or false.
I think
that's a good way to put it.
I think one of the ways that, so when I think of curiosity, I think of it being open-ended, right? So like I can be curious about anything going on. I can be openly curious about anything around me. With skepticism, I think it starts from a tighter or closed place, like a statement is made, and now I want to ask about it to sort of figure out what the truth is there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big sort of different is like where you come from is like when I can start to be curious about anything. It does. Nobody's making a statement. There's no. I guess it's not as subjective. Whereas I think when you're skeptical, we're typically starting from a specific place on a specific topic, and then we're going, okay, I would like to know more about what's actually true or not true about whatever this specific statement or topic it may be.
I agree. I think with skepticism, there's some preconceived notions that drive you to be skeptic, to drive you in that direction. With curiosity, it's just like, I have no idea. Can you please tell me more?
Yeah.
There isn't really a preconceived notion there at all.
There's direction. Skepticism has direction.
Well, yes, I think. Oh, go ahead.
You can as well, I guess too. So,
How many times is someone talking and they sound skeptical, but what would be more helpful to the dialogue between you and that person was if they were curious, right? Because sometimes we take their skepticism as like we get upset.
It can be definitely used in a wrong place.
Yeah, I think it can be used in a right place as well, though.
Yeah,
especially for those very long-standing thoughts that we have, or we consider them to be facts about our lives. For somebody to be a genuine skeptic, and in the case where it may not necessarily be true what you believe, You need that challenge sometimes for you to move off of that, to believe something else, to open up your world to possibilities.
I
But I
think one of
think
the
in coach, oh, who's talking?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But in coaching, the premise that I mentioned earlier, when we're in skepticism, the client has given us that premise. We don't come from it on our own. The client gives us that information. I think that's the difference.
I think also one of the things that, as I'm thinking about the videos we watched, and the first video talked about how with skepticism, there is also, it's important to be a little skeptical about skepticism because one of the things about it is if you are challenging core beliefs that exist to support a human being on maybe another level, that basically if you are being skeptical in areas that don't require skepticism or might cause damage, if I am somebody who has a belief system and I'm not respecting the belief systems of my client, and so I'm being skeptical, and that's going to, even though I feel like by them knowing the truth, it's going to somehow open their eyes, or it will help. The truth of the matter is, what I might be doing is challenging a belief system that by going down that road without our client's permission, could cause some very serious damage, and cause more harm than good. So sometimes there are beliefs within us as people that exist and are serving a greater purpose. And we just have to, as coaches, be aware of when our clients are capable of challenging those or questioning around and accepting the skepticism around those belief systems. Because sometimes we're ready to hear those things and sometimes we're not, right? It's one of those situations.
So I'm thinking of an example of that. There was someone I was coaching that he had, and it was a he in that moment, he had believed that all of his preconceived notions were accurate, and his wife challenged that, and so that became an interesting, kind of fills in with this, what we're talking about, became an interesting topic because he was too busy proving how he was right and she was wrong. It's kind of interesting as I reflect what that was. And in the end of a few sessions, he did move his being in that brakes on, not willing to move, have an ability to go, that could be right. There are some things that are factual, and then there's some things that are factual that are based on our perceptions.
And that's when we get into the philosophy of skepticism right there. And we can start to get to have those crazy talks about whether or not we really exist. And if my hand does in fact, having a hand actually prove that I actually have a hand.
But it gets kind of at our job as coaches where don't overstep your bounds as a coach, because I believe that, you can learn the truth, you can be skeptical, and it could lead to very bad consequences. So what, But the implicit assumption that we get as an ICF, coaching that we're doing, and I've got the definition in front of me, it's to inspire your client to maximize their personal and professional potential, and you don't get to decide what that definition is. It's the client who gets to decide that, what their potential is and how do you maximize that. So if that means you don't challenge them on some things and you're not skeptical about some of their things, let it go. It's fine. They get to be the ones who are in the driver's seat, and your job is to facilitate that process so that they reach their goal in the end. If they do some soul searching in the meantime and you challenge them on some of their beliefs and it's ultimately serving that purpose, then good. But it's really not our jobs to be, I guess, I don't know a word for someone who is a philosopher and also your therapist at the same time. But whatever that is, that's not really our job as coaches.
Mm-mm.
A philosophist. sound like a dinosaur.
I think I've talked about this before, maybe to you, Brooke, but I was saying like I'd like to be like a therapist, but like I don't really help you. Like I'm not there's no guarantee that this like talk that we're gonna have is going to ever make you feel good. Or, like,
Oh my gosh.
you might have a more philosophical like understanding of the world around you. You might have a different way of thinking, but I'm not going to guarantee that this is good for you. Whatever job that is, I would like to have it, but I don't think people would pay for that.
Yeah, usually people want to go and feel good in some fashion.
Yes. Which is exactly why, I think why people want to be coached and they want to ultimately feel good, either about themselves or about the results that they get from coaching. It should have some sort of positive impact. And being a skeptic means that sometimes it doesn't lead to positive outcomes. And that's why people criticize skepticism, because it has nothing by itself to offer. It needs to be paired with something for it to be valuable.
And that's what we just shared, the difference between skepticism and curiosity. Nicely done.
Mhm.
I have an idea of how we end our show today.
Okay.
Oh,
I think we should all name our favorite video games.
Sure.
favorite video
You
game.
are a brat, just a brat.
our favorite and our most hated, right?
I can't
The best
even-
and the worst.
Do I hate any video games? Do I hate any video games? Do I hate
Most
any video
hated
games?
video games.
Do I hate any video games?
Okay, I'll say what I hate first because I remember don't tell anyone. I broke someone's laptop when I was a kid playing this game. Because I was that furious and just throwing stuff around. It's Super Paper Mario. I loved it and hated it at the same time, but never finished it. So I guess I hated it to the point where I didn't want to finish it. So I guess lean towards hating it more than liking it.
Mhm.
Love. I don't know. They're all great. Video games are great.
My brother would totally be better in that question. I can't answer.
Brooke?
I'm obsessed with Elden Ring. Thank you. I'm on New Game Plus Plus. I stream 5 days a week if you want to watch me play. And, yeah, so that would be my favorite. I don't know that I have a hated video game at all, if I'm honest.
Least liked or least played,
Liked.
maybe?
Or at least played. There's nothing. I mean, I really haven't come across much that I'm like, "Gil, get it away from me." Because I really like the challenge. Like if something is challenging, that's gonna make me want to play it more. Like that's gonna make me go, "Oh, I gotta figure this out." Like this is
Okay.
gonna bother me if I can't.
So what about one that you got rather quickly? What about a game that you just like, okay, done with that?
I'm innately amazing at Tetris and Sudoku. Which I don't know if you can call those video games. And I'll tell you, Elden Ring, I had almost 500 hours on Elden Ring. And when I started, I sucked. I super sucked. Like I
Really bad.
sucked. And that's why I like my stream, because my entire stream is about come in, ask questions. This is not a judgmental space. This is not a space where I'm going to say I know everything. You come in and watch me fail. I'm going to fail at some of this, but let's do it together and let's have fun. And so it is true. That's what I do. And now I'm much better than I once was, but I did not start this way. So
I've got my answer. My most favorite game historically, like if I'm looking back to all the video games I've ever played, the one I enjoyed the most is Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is a absolutely fantastic like role-playing game that gives you a different look and feel of like the Star Wars universe. It's cool, fun, whatever. Most hated video game. I don't hate a lot of video games because if I just don't enjoy them, I stop playing them. Except I'm thinking of one video game that I am kind of forced to play that I don't like, which is Fortnite, because all of my friends play it, and that's a way for me to play with my friends. And incidentally, even though I hate it the most, I'm the best at it. So that's my most hated game that I currently play.
I will say I have not picked Cuphead back up because I'm stuck on a level that's driving me bananas. I'm not. It's just like I can't get past this right now, and so it just pissed me off. So
Jen, what is your favorite and most hated game?
Okay, well, first of all, I may answer this in a way that shows that these games no longer exist. So, I like Mario Kart a lot.
I love Mario Kart, by the way. That was awesome.
I can sit and play Mario Kart for hours and be completely content. I like Donkey Kong a lot, and I really love Peggle. I'm just gonna
Peggle. Oh my god, I used to play Peggle.
I like all the little animals, you know. I like the colors. It's just fun.
I used to
I played Peggle the other day.
I also used to play Plants vs. Zombies. Like Plants.
Cambria did.
So the game that I do not like is Rocket League.
I never played.
I love that game.
It is.
I don't like that game.
hard. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how people are so good at it.
I don't understand.
Phenomenal at it, and I'm like, he'll ask me to play it, and I'm so bad that I'm like, I can't do it.
I have mad respect for it because it's like there's such a high like skill ceiling. Where like the people who are good at it, it's absolutely insane. I have no interest in playing it. It seems like an absolutely boring game. That's just not. I don't like any games with cars in it. I think
Lisa,
anything that has cars, I'm not a fan.
It's soccer with cars.
Oh,
It's
with
amazing.
rockets.
oh.
It is frustrating, but I have a lot of fun playing it.
What is going on in that situation? All my games, of course, have to be fantasy or horror based if I can help it.
I wish Kyle was here because I know we spent about a year playing Battlefront 2, so that's up there for
Battlefront,
me. Star Wars
okay.
game. But when we lived
See,
together,
all of us like have different game tastes too, as like what we consider like our games that we play.
I know. I wonder what that means.
I like
try
dance.
I'm sure there's some
too.
philosophy with
Do
that.
they still make those?
What?
Do they still make dance games? Like I used to have a system where you would
That would
dance
be-
and it would pick up your
That would be my hell. Like I would be horrible at that.
Dance
Like,
Dance
I-
Revolution.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
I'm
so
not
the
playing
new
it.
the what do you call it? The
VR.
VR thing we
Mhm.
have is they've got some. Gabrielle's really
Yeah,
good at
VR. There's dancing games in VR.
I always kicked butt at any like kung fu game, like where you were gonna fight somebody else. Like I
Mortal
would
Kombat.
pick Mortal Kombat, like any of those. People
I love
hated playing.
I wish
because-
Joe was here for this conversation too. Joe seems like a gamer.
Oh,
Yeah.
Joe, yeah, he would be all over this. I don't like fighting stuff. In fact, even any movies when there's like really gory fighting,
You would
I
not
don't
like Elden
do it.
Ring. You would
Love
really
that.
hate it. You would.
I
get,
live
like,
for that.
covered in blood. Like the you know what? It's not a game, but I love to play and I miss playing it. Is pinball.
Ah,
Right? Pinball used to be a staple in my family. We used to go to like the pizza place and just kick it at the pinball machine for hours, eating pizza and playing pinball with one another, just being competitive. And like, I love pinball and I miss playing pinball. I also used to go play. What was the game? I used to go play. I don't know. It was some like shooting game with zombies at Dave and Buster's, and I could.
That's
hours.
House of the Dead.
House of the Dead. I could spend hours playing House of the Dead.
And that's
man,
my
did we go off on a tangent about games?
Duck Hunt sucked at it, but it was fun.
Thank you for this tangent.
Yes, we have.
All right, I think that we're 10 minutes over. I want to clock out. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Hi guys.
So
And we are not doing live next
We'll be
week.
here next week.
yes,
No.
we won't be here next week.
We will not be here next week, next Tuesday. That's a holiday. We're all going to be, blowing each other up with fireworks. In the meantime, like, subscribe, share, take our classes where you get to be curious and be skeptical. And, it's 3 days. It's amazing. That's
like
it.
it.
That's it.
Play some video games if you have some time to.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Until next time, be well.